Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Acting Staff Sergeant Jared Bueller with the EPS Homicide Section. Just over 1 year ago, on Saturday, November 5th, 2022, Kelsey Ouellette was murdered near Jasper Avenue and 116th Street. Kelsey was ambushed and shot repeatedly after leaving her residence. This was a cold-blooded and targeted murder of a defenseless victim. Autopsy confirmed the cause of death to be multiple gunshot injuries. The manner of death was homicide. Shortly after Kelsey's murder, we released video footage of a white Toyota Highlander and a second image of a burned Toyota Highlander believed to be related to Kelsey's murder. It remains our belief that these vehicles are one and the same, and that this vehicle was used by the suspect or suspects involved in Kelsey's murder. While useful information was received by the investigation after last year's media update, Kelsey's murder remains active but unsolved. Last year, a life-changing event was referred to, which was experienced by Kelsey in the months prior to her murder. This event and the circumstances surrounding it remain relevant to the investigation of her murder. I can advise today that on Monday, June 6, 2022, police responded to the sudden death of Nicholas Chamberland, age 34, at a residence in the Carleton neighborhood of Edmonton. Nick, in some circles, was also known by the name Maverick or Mav. Nick Chamberland was Kelsey's boyfriend, and until just prior to his death, they lived together in the Carleton residence, but had recently separated. While the medical cause of Nick Chamberland's death is believed to be non-criminal, in light of Kelsey Ouellette's murder, we have re-examined the circumstance that preceded and followed his death and irregularities in the reporting and activities surrounding it. We now believe Kelsey's murder is directly related to significant criminal events associated to Nicholas Chamberland and individuals in his network, which occurred within the context of high-level organized crime. While Nicholas Chamberland's death may be non-criminal, we now believe it was the catalyst for events which gave rise to Kelsey Ouellette's murder. The complex circumstances of Nicholas Chamberland and Kelsey Ouellette's lives in the months preceding and following his death are now of significant interest to the investigation and are critical in solving Kelsey's murder. We're sharing this information along with previously published photo of Nicholas and asking anyone with information about Nicholas Chamberland and the activities of he and his associates to contact the investigation to further explore this information. I'll take any questions.
And just if you guys could come to the microphone and just say what outlet you're with, that'd be great. Thanks.
This is Cabby Money with Global News. So I know about a year ago when this announcement came, I guess, for Ouellette here, we kept this life-changing event kind of vague. So I guess the question is, why is this brought up now compared to a year ago?
For investigative reasons, we weren't prepared to delve into the exact circumstances around Nicholas Chamberland's death at that time. It was still very early in the investigation, and we were aware of his death, so if it was of interest to the investigation. How and if it related at that time wasn't clear. As the investigation has progressed, his death, and as I said, the fact that his death was a catalyst for other events became more clear to us. And at this point, Nick, his associations and events that surrounded him are central to our investigation of Kelsey's murder.
Any other questions?
Did Nick overdose? Was it a drug-related fatality? Or?
At this point, the medical cause of Nick's death is not suspicious to us. Out of respect for him and his family, I'm not going to discuss the specific medical cause of his death. other than to say it was a explainable death that occurred within the context of a much broader circumstance.
Can you speak to the nature of the criminality that Nicholas was involved in? Was it drugs, was it stolen vehicle? What kind of criminal activity?
So I mentioned a high-level organized crime. In this situation, specifically, we're talking primarily about drug trafficking. And so what's of interest to our investigation is the intersection of drugs and money, and where those two things came together, and where they ultimately went to.
Adrian, South City News. In terms of the vehicle that was found burned out, has there been any update on that or anything that directly ties people to Chamberlain from the vehicle that was discovered?
Yeah, I mentioned that at the time we had released video of a vehicle we know to be involved in Kelsey's murder, and then an image of a vehicle, a burned out vehicle that we believe to be the same vehicle. Nothing's changed in that regard. It's still our belief that vehicle is one and the same. At this point, it doesn't appear that there's going to be a lot of investigative avenues that are going to stem off of that vehicle. We're still aware of it, but we're now more interested in Nick and understanding what was going on in his life, really in the 8-month period leading up to Kelsey's murder. There's some pretty significant activity that we're aware of and that we want to understand better. We know that there's going to be people out there who knew Nick and are going to be acquainted with some of those activities, and we need them to come forward and talk to us about that.
What would you say to people who may have information about this that may be reticent to come to you in terms of they live a certain lifestyle and don't want to expose themselves, but at the same time you need information? What would you say to them?
Yeah, certainly get that, and that's very common in these situations. I spoke to this exact issue last year during the initial news conference around Kelsey. In that case, as it related to the stolen vehicle and obviously criminality that would have had to occur around that vehicle for it to become involved. I can assure them that we get their situation and their reluctance, and that our only focus in this case is solving Kelsey's murder. We get that it occurred in a much broader context of other criminal activity and significant criminal activity that in and of itself would be, subject to high-level police investigations. We are not drug cops. We're homicide investigators, and we're willing to listen to what people have to say with a homicide lens, and we're going to respect their boundaries, and we're going to use it for the purposes of our investigation. At the very least, I'd encourage people to reach out and have that conversation so that we can discuss what I just said in more depth and reassure them.